Hello and welcome to today's Daily Think Share. So I just found out that the TV show was a local access show in Worcester that I appeared on in November, that I could put it on my YouTube channel. So I wanted to share it with you. It's me and another author talking about some of the processes we went through becoming self-published authors. So both of us are very different. If you're someone out there that is working on publishing something or you want to publish something, this might answer a couple of the questions for you, and it's for all aspiring authors and anyone that's interested in writing. We don't talk a whole lot about our book specifically, just the process of becoming an author. Hope you enjoy it.
Also, if it's a little slow pace for you, remember you can always go down into here, the settings icon. You can change the speed of it to 1.25 if some of us talk slow. So feel free to speed it up if 30 minutes is too long for you.
Hello, Worcester, Central Massachusetts, and the whole world. Welcome to another episode of Exposure with Mosier, where we are here to spotlight entrepreneurs, innovators, and good news in our community and in our world. Thank you again for tuning in. We have a really cool episode today. We have two self-published authors that hail from the Chelmsford-Lowell area, as well as Clinton, which is my new hometown. So we have two really great authors. We're going to get to learn a bit more about them and what sort of work they're putting out in the world. We're going to hear first from Stephanie, she's actually a multi-book author, and she is more in the fictional realm. And then we have Zach, who's more in the personal growth and development realm, and they'll get to introduce themselves right now. So thank you both so much for driving to the Woo and for being here during this very busy time of the year. So thank you. You're welcome. So we have Stephanie Henry. Again, I mentioned that you're from Clinton, so thank you very much for being here. If you want to just sort of start us off, Stephanie, and tell us a little bit more about yourself, a little bit about your journey, a little bit about kind of what you're up to. I know that you've got multiple books, so feel free to mention those briefly. And then maybe something unique about you that we wouldn't otherwise know just by seeing this impressive author here on set. So tell us more about you.
Okay, so like you said, I'm from Clinton. I graduated Clinton High School. I went off to Westfield State College, ultimately transferred to Fitchburg State, where I majored in professional writing with a psych minor. Right now, I manage a transportation company full-time, and I write when I have time. And I have a 6-year-old son and a 3-year-old daughter, so they keep me pretty busy as well.
I bet. Wow, that's a lot to juggle. And I think we met originally pretty recently, I'd say within the last month or so. And I've given Miss Rhonda Messer of Coffeelands and Clinton a shout out a few times, but wanted to thank Rhonda for introducing me to Stephanie, and I know that she had some of your books on display in her coffee shop, and I happened to mention that I had an upcoming authors show, and she said, oh my gosh, you have to have Stephanie on. So always through networking and following up, right? So it was a pleasure to meet with you, and thanks for just taking a leap and being here on set with us. And I'm so glad to just hear about what you've been doing and the fact that you're sort of self-published and certainly self-motivated. I'm really happy to know you. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, we live in the same town, which
yes.
is pretty cool. Awesome. So let's hear from Zach Watson. Tell us more about you and your background and journey. You're a fascinating character, I have to say.
Thank you.
And let us know what the name of your book is. And I know you've got a lot of unique things, Zach, but maybe pick one or two unique things about you as a person.
So I am originally from Foxborough. I got my bachelor's in engineering at UMass Amherst, got my master's at UMass Lowell. I'm currently an 8th grade math teacher at the Robinson Middle School. And
shout out to the Robinson Middle School.
Yeah, they wanted me to wear the sweatshirt today, but I told them I was going to dress up a little bit. And I wrote a book because I thought it was something that I needed to deliver to the world. And one of the things I'm really excited about that I've also been working on recently is a YouTube channel. Cool. And I thought to myself, what better way to reach my 8th grade students than to find a place that they're already plugged into. And I'll give you two facts. My most popular YouTube video I developed 7 years ago, how to make a Starburst bracelet. Like the Starburst candies has 50,000 views.
Wow.
And I have this haircut because I did a can drive at my school recently. And I said, whoever brings in the most cans gets to give me a haircut. So they give me an old man haircut, and then I cut off the rest about a week later.
Yeah, you would not necessarily know that. So
Yeah.
Thank you for that example. That lightens the mood. That's great. Awesome. And Zach, I believe we met, I don't know how many years back, a few years at least.
Yeah, 2 or 3.
2 or 3 years ago through our
Landmark.
work at Landmark Worldwide. So,
Yeah.
and I love that you've been able to take some of those distinctions into the classroom, and would love to hear more about sort of how that's impacted the students. And I
Yeah.
think you mentioned, I've only thumbed through the beginning of your book, but I
Yeah.
think I've noticed some of those concepts. So I'm sure we'll hear a
Yeah.
little bit more today. Great, thank you guys. So Stephanie, how did you know that this was sort of a path that you wanted to walk down? I know that a lot of people say they would love to write a book, and that's sort of one of the themes we'll get back to. But how did you know that this path of being an author, at least a part-time author, now you've got multiple books, I mean, how did you know that this was the right path for you? And like, when and why did you decide to become an author?
So for me, writing has always been a passion of mine. And I started writing poetry in middle school and kept it up in high school. But I've always wanted to be able to write a novel. But it seemed so intimidating to me to actually follow through with it. So I would get these ideas and I would write the beginning of stories, just a few pages, and then I would just kind of put them aside and forget about them. So I never completed it. But one day I came across one of those unfinished drafts, and I thought this could really be good. So I really committed myself to it, and I just focused on completing it. And once I started writing and the story started to flow, I just couldn't stop. I really got into it, and I got into my character's world, and I wanted to know how the story ended, so I just kept writing it.
And how else would you know how it ended if you didn't get in there and
Yeah.
continue writing, right?
Yeah, yeah.
That's very cool. Thank you. So there's a lot more questions that are cascading in my mind, but we'll ping pong it over there to Zach. So tell us a little bit, how did you know that this was the right path, and what really prompted you, and how did you decide and then commit to writing your book?
Well, I'll tell you, I would have never, back in high school or middle school, I would have never anticipated being a writer. I had to do hooked on phonics in first grade because I wasn't keeping up with the reading. I was really good at math. I hated English class. I slept through most of the time. And it came to me when I was working on my master's degree, headed towards class one day. I got involved into audiobooks and listening because I could actually pay attention to that rather than reading, which I still fall asleep to often. And I was listening to The Monk That Sold His Ferrari. And in the book, it's a lawyer that has a near-death experience, goes to the Eastern, I think somewhere in India, becomes a monk, and then the monks that teach him tell him, you have to go back to America to pass this forward. And I feel like in the past 3 years since doing the Landmark Forum and like reading again for the first time since 6th grade, I started finding all these things that I didn't get in my sort of traditional education. And I said, like, I gotta pass this on. And since I had fallen in love with audiobooks, this was originally going to be just an audiobook, and then realized I had to create a script for it, which turned into the book.
The irony.
Yeah. So I got to the college class and I just started writing for those 2.5 hours, and I paid no attention to the actual course.
You know, no offense to the instructor, but it sounds like you were really inspired at that point.
Yeah.
Well, and that's really cool too, Zach, that you really had more of an inclination toward math as opposed to reading. In fact, it sounded like you had some difficulty, like some people do early on, you know. The hooked on phonics worked for you. So, but that's cool that you wouldn't necessarily have thought that you'd be an author. And then I imagine also you mentioned you're an 8th grade math teacher, is that correct? You know, that's just an inspiration to a lot of the young people. And did you share that story with them, that you told them you used to really prefer math
Yeah.
and you had, you struggled a bit in English, and maybe that opened up some of their minds that, okay, I may not be the best at this, but I could still pursue it and do well or have a little fun with it. I bet you're a
Yeah.
great role model for them.
Yeah, all of us can be Renaissance men and women.
That's cool. Very nice. Awesome. I'm sure they're pretty proud to see you here on TV. I'm sure this will get some
Yeah,
some
they're
airtime.
excited when I told them.
Yeah, that's great. And you tell them that in just a few years they too could be on this or other shows. Great. So let's see. I would love to know what you guys really learned from the process of writing your book or books. Who would like to go first?
Sure.
Yeah, Steph.
For me, I think the biggest thing that I learned is that once you write a book, there's just so much more to it than actually just writing a book. So when you put that last word on your manuscript, it's just the beginning when most would think that it's over. So I learned about proofreading and editing and re-editing and formatting and publishing and promoting, and it's definitely a learning process, and I'm still learning, but each time you do it, it gets easier because you learn along the way.
It's very profound. So you put that last word on the manuscript, and then you're saying that rather than that being the end of that work, it's like the beginning. It opens up a whole new set of doors, I imagine.
Yeah.
Cool. And we'll get into a little bit more about that, because I know that I've had people ask before, well, gosh, I'd love to write a book, but it feels like mysterious. Like, where do I start? Is it self-published versus getting a publisher? So we'll kind of get into that in a little bit. But thank you. So it sounds like, in like anything, we're always still learning, right?
Yes.
If we're alive, we're learning, hopefully. So Zach, what did you learn from your process of writing the book?
I think one of the most important things that I've learned are that having an inspiring deadline, having an inspiring plan about doing something is more important than having a reasonable and realistic one. So, my original idea for it started back in January 2015, and then I dropped it for about a year because I kind of lost the drive of it, and I picked it back up when someone said, "Hey," and I said, "Yeah, I definitely want to finish it this year." And I said it to a whole classroom of people at one of the landmark courses. And someone asked me, when would you like to finish it by? And I said, well, it'd be really cool to finish it by my birthday in August. And he said, oh, well, I look forward to seeing it. I was like, no, I didn't mean it like that. And like, no, I look forward to seeing it then. And after they said that, I was like, all right, well, maybe I could. And then I just thought about it. And now I'm a teacher, so I have school vacation off in the summer. But it was still, it was like a 2-month window. This was back in like May or something, or maybe 3 months. And it still felt like overwhelming, but it inspired me, and that's what pushed me to actually accomplish it. So since then, I've applied that to my YouTube channel. So I said, at first, from my birthday in August, I wanted to produce 100 videos in a year. And after realizing that, I was like, no, how about 100 videos before New Year's? And right now I'm at 63 videos. Last month I had 24 videos.
Last month you had 24 and you now have
videos,
63.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I believe I was in the room when somebody had asked you that question at Landmark. We're in the wisdom course together. And I remember the following weekend, so what was it, like 6 or 8 weeks in between?
Yeah. I had finished and I was just working on the process that she talked about.
Yeah.
That it's not like the last period is written, but the editing and the
Exactly.
formatting stuff is not done.
And I was blown away that in that short period of time you had done what it took to make that happen. And and I know this may come up in sort of the advice section, but I love the notion of progress, completion, progress, doing what you can as you want, as opposed to being so stalled and waiting for everything to be perfect. So I know that's something that I know that is very inspiring, because a lot of us feel like, we get caught up in feeling like we have to be perfect.
Yeah.
It has to be the perfect thing before we move forward, and that's just not how life goes, right?
Yeah.
And you can really take that insight in so many directions, in so many areas of life. So I think we should just roll right into what advice or insight do you guys have, particularly for those people that have expressed an interest in wanting to write a book? And we know that we can take the same inquiry around people that may want to launch or do something new. They're sitting on it. They're hesitant for their own reasons, right? There may be other circumstances or what have you, but what would you say to those people in particular that they really want to write a book? What advice or insight do you have for those people?
For people who are interested in writing, if they wanted to write a novel, I would say the best thing that you can do is to read a lot, and just read so much that you make it your passion. And then if you find a good book, a book that you loved, find that author on social media or their website or whatever, and follow them, and then follow their favorite authors, and then that's how you kind of learn about the business, and you network that way. But keep reading, and when you think that you're such an avid reader, that you might want to actually, commit to writing your own novel, then just go for it.
That's really great advice. Thanks. Got me thinking. I feel like I want to start writing. Zach.
A couple things. So I would say it probably takes a lot less time than you think. I dedicated my book to anyone that said that they want to be an author and have not done it yet. I estimate it took me 200 to 250 hours to do.
Total.
Yeah. And the other thing is that living in the 21st century, you have 100% of the resources around you that you need to accomplish that. So I know both of us used CreateSpace.com, a self-publishing website through Amazon, and all it required was this is kind of an understatement, but a Word document and a PDF file. So my wife was good enough at using Adobe that she was able to create and design the PDF for the cover and the back page. And all I needed was Microsoft Word. And then some people that have said this to me, like, I don't even have a laptop. I said, do you have a library card?
Yeah.
Did you know library cards are free? And you're absolutely surrounded by all the resources you could possibly need. And I don't know if you did, but I got a lot of advice through CreateSpace forums. You just ask questions. Usually, I feel like most of my answers were in like 24 hours. People are really, they're on there to help you. And it's unbelievable how much easier it was than I thought it would have been.
Wow. You bring up a really important and perhaps underspoken topic around team and sort of like your support structure. So you mentioned your wife, and feel free to give Alyssa a shout out.
Yeah.
But talk a little bit about sort of like the support structure, and you mentioned a particular resource of the CreateSpace.com and different forums, and that people are really there to help you out. But did you guys ever feel like you were sort of just originally like feeling, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm on an island here. I'm having to figure all this out by myself. And then you started to discover that whether it's your spouse, friends, family, and there may be some of those people that may have discouraged you along the way. I don't know. But maybe talk a little bit about sort of the support structure, the people in your life that helped make your from goal to reality. Do you want to just say anything about that? And then
I'd love to jump in
I'm sure
here.
Stephanie has some thoughts too.
One of the things that I say to my students every day is that to make their goals happen, most of them will need to talk to somebody about it. If you keep it internal, now I know this isn't quite the way you operate it, but I know a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm gonna write a book and then I'll publish it and then everyone will know. And it's like, I'll just sneak up on people. And what I found was when I did that, or I think I kept it between me and my wife, is it died out. From January 2015 to maybe May or June, like I just lost the inspiration. And what I did differently the second time around when I started again back in May was that I decided I didn't hire anyone, but I asked one of my friends, like, could I have a weekly call with you where I get out of my own way? And every week she would say, hey, how's it going? Like, how is the writing coming? Do you have a plan? And she's not an experienced author. She's just someone that generally understands productivity. And so weekly we would just talk about what's stopping me, and then I would listen to myself complain about my first world problems, and then I would laugh at myself for realizing that, wow, is this really what's stopping me? And then I would get back to it. So having someone to help hold you accountable, I found extremely helpful. And I would imagine that a lot of people, and I've seen it happen in my class for the students setting goals, having someone to help you hold accountable just because you don't want to look bad in front of them,
Right.
is really useful.
Cool. So it sounds like you had an experience before that, before you sort of laid down the project for a year,
Yeah.
where you were kind of in your head trying to figure it all out, and you took that hiatus,
Yeah,
if you
I
will.
got really resigned about it and like was not doing any work for about a year on it.
Yeah, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers can relate to that, whatever the project may be, if it's a book or some other project where, you know, it's like a great idea and then you just lose motivation for whatever reason, and then to resurface and then actually create some kind of accountability structure, that sounds like really powerful. And it sounds like it's not like your friend was giving you a hard time, it's actually
Yeah.
something you requested, is that
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely.
Yeah, very cool. Well, thanks to all those friends and supportive people, family members or whomever, that help us bring our creative visions from goal to reality. So, Stephanie, any thoughts? And I know, Zach kind of referenced that you maybe have, in our
Yeah.
prep session, you mentioned you've done things a little bit differently. So there's no one right way to do it, but do you want to say anything about your particular support structure or the people around you that
Yeah, the
help make it
difference
happen?
was just that with my first novel, I just kind of kept it a secret, and I wrote it, and all of a sudden I was like, hey, here's my novel. And people were like, you wrote a book?
Yeah.
When did this happen? So completely opposite from his experience. But after I published my first book, my friends and family were really like, when's the second book coming out?
Oh,
We want
wow.
more. And so because my goal was just to finish one book. I just wanted to, just that task alone I thought would be so overwhelming. And when I completed it, I was like, it was like a relief. I was so proud. And then people were like, okay, so when's the next one coming? And I was like, you want me to write another one?
Well, that's excellent
So,
feedback, actually.
So yeah, but
Had they read the first book and they wanted more
Right.
themselves?
Right. So it
Cool.
encouraged me to write the second one, definitely.
That
And
must-
I don't think I would have if it hadn't been for people requesting
Wow.
it. So yeah.
You were kind of like, okay, we're done here. Thank you. I can check that off the list.
Yeah.
But then your people wanted more.
Yeah.
What a
So
cool
the
story.
support system definitely helps.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you were kind of like under the radar.
Yeah.
And then, didn't you say, we were chatting, I think it was earlier today, was it your uncle that like had no idea you were writing a book? And all of a sudden
Yeah,
it
he
was
said,
there?
I see you once a week, and
Yeah.
I had no idea that you were writing a book. And it was like, well, surprise.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
intriguing. The plot
Yeah.
thickens.
Yeah.
No pun intended. You know what? Can we just sort of dispel some of the sort of questions and basic myths I feel like there is around publication? Like, how do you actually go about publishing a book? I know in your case, you guys were both self-published authors. So can you just talk a little bit briefly about, did you research various options and then you arrived at self-publication for a certain reason? Was it sort of, cost or speed or access, or what is the difference really between publishing yourself versus teaming up with a publisher? Can you just kind of break that down for us a little bit?
Start.
Sure. So I thought I've tried to have my book published. So I've contacted various different publishing companies
Okay.
that have produced other things, and it's one of the really interesting things is if you go through the FAQs, the frequently asked questions. A lot of people, it doesn't seem like they've actually written a book yet. Most people are out there contacting a publishing company or an agent, and they're saying like, "Hey, I have this book idea. Will you sort of sponsor me in doing that?" And I've found that my situation often does not apply to a lot of those questions because I've already finished it, which has been really surprising. And I think I'm not published yet. I don't know if that's it's on the bucket list. I don't know if it's on the current goals list. Like I have to make this happen. But I think creating a book and self-publishing and having it exist in the world for you to look at and hold in your hand is a totally different game than having it published by someone working to become a bestseller or something.
And I think it reminds everyday people that, I could write a book. It doesn't have to be this totally fancy official thing. I can start with a self-published item, and then who knows where it can go. It can open up other doors, I'm sure. So that's really cool, Zach. Thanks for kind of making it more real and just doable for more people. Is there anything that you wanted to add to that, Stephanie?
Yeah. So when I finished my first book, I did the same thing. I did reach out to publishers, but I wasn't. I guess I was enthusiastic about the about the chance to be with like a big publishing company, but ultimately it just wasn't for me. With my second book, I didn't even try it. There's a lot of pros to self-publishing, being an independent author. You get to pick your own cover. You get to pick your own deadlines. You get to do things the way you want to do them, release the books when you want to release them. And you don't really answer to anyone. And the indie community alone is really supportive. And I was happy with self-publishing.
Really cool. Yeah, thank you guys. So believe it or not, guys, we're approaching the end of our show. So what I want to do is give you guys each, a minute or so to talk in more depth about in your case, books. And I also know that you are currently writing the first of 3 series, and that's not here. We'll just wet their whistle. But please feel free to hold up the books and tell us again the name of the book. Again, remind us your name so they can find you, and a little bit about what the book is about and why, of course, they're going to be running to go get it, for example, or perhaps pick it up for somebody they know. And so you can speak directly with our community.
Okay. So What Doesn't Kill Us is a fictional young adult novel. It follows 2 teenagers as they experience heartbreak and self-discovery, and they unearth secrets that ultimately change their lives, all while forming an undeniable bond to each other. The story of us actually takes the best friends of the main characters in What Doesn't Kill Us, and we follow them as they enter college, and they have a love-hate relationship, so that was fun to write their story. There was lots of witty banter and flirting, and it gets serious, but that was fun to write about for them.
Very cool. And do you want to say 10 seconds on your latest project?
Sure. Right now I'm working on a 3-book series. The first book is released, but the second 2 are still in production. It's titled CVAC, and it's about a vaccine that gets released to the general public, which is supposed to cure and both prevent and cure cancer of all types. And it's safe to get, and everybody all around the world gets it. And things are great for a while, and years later, drastic side effects emerge. And so we follow the protagonist, Briella, as she deals with the consequences of those side effects.
Wow. Well, that sounds pretty awesome. Thank you for giving us a little bit of a tip of the iceberg. So, Zach, tell us about your Ideas Over Coffee. Please hold that up. Tell us again a little bit more in detail about what it's about, and then you can also sort of begin to wrap up and tell people how they can find you, what may be coming up for you, and how to contact you.
Yep. So Ideas Over Coffee, it was originally that I disliked the amount of coffee that my wife drank, and it turned into I wanted to offer something at coffee shops that people could be having deeper conversations than what's the weather outside, how are the Red Sox doing. And so I found that a lot of my life changed because I just started shifting the conversations between me and the people that I saw every day. And so this is mostly a conversation starter. It's 104 topics that are between 2 and 4 pages long. And I would say I talk quite a bit about them on my YouTube channel, which I would invite you to subscribe to. I'm working on getting better at it and being funnier, as we live in an attention deficit world. My goal is that you can pick up one habit, one small thing that totally changes your daily happiness.
On that note, thank you. Thank you guys so much. And I encourage the viewers to always get in touch with these folks that we have on the show. Go check them out online. They've got upcoming events, and you've got some signings and publications and other things happening. So happy holidays to everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in, and see you next time.
So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that was something inspiring to people out there that want to be authors. It's really not that hard. and I am actually coaching one person on writing her own poetry book. So if you're interested in getting some coaching on that, powering through and getting some help, let me know. Put it in the comments below. Let's try to get, I don't know, let's go for a crazy number, like 7 likes on this video. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe if you'd like more, and stay weird.